Hi there, and welcome to Jones Events Orlando presents Let's Get Real with V.Michelle, where we talk about real life, real weddings, and real events. I want you to make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below and make sure you turn on that notification bell so you will be made aware every time we upload a new video. During your wedding planning process, there is one thing that gets a little bit mixed up, and that is what you want versus what your guests want. In today's video, we're going to talk about what is actually important to your wedding guests. So let's get into it. The first thing that's a little bit important, or I think is like a big essential part, is what day of the week are you getting married on? Is it a Friday where people would have to typically take off work to attend your wedding, or to make sure that they work half a day to make sure they'll be able to attend your wedding if it's a Friday night? Is it a Saturday wedding, which that's the most popular day of the week, of course, to get married? Or is it a Sunday wedding where they may take off Monday just because they want to make sure they're able to hang out a little bit more after the wedding? Or if it's a late evening wedding, that they'll be able to fully function when they go back to work on Tuesday instead of Monday. One important thing that I always like to know, especially when I'm going to something, is the terrain. So a lot of times you can get to a venue, if it says barn, you may typically think, oh, okay, maybe I'll wear some shoes that are a little more appropriate for a barn. But if you have something that says chateau, but you're not aware that you'll be walking through, 3-inch thick grass, you may wear heels that will be hard to walk through 3-inch grass and some stilettos. So it's also important for you to make sure that when you're considering different things, that you keep the terrain in mind, because that is really important to your guests. For ladies especially, because that'll make the difference between wearing wedges. Get tongue tied. That makes the difference between wearing wedges or wearing a stiletto heel, or maybe wearing a clunkier heel. That way you're more comfortable walking in, whatever terrain you may come upon. And that also goes for mulch. A lot of times people don't think about it, but mulch can be a wreck on a pair of pumps. So if you have different things that are happening, just take the time to make sure your guests are aware of the terrain that they'll be exposed to, because that can definitely make the difference in what they wear, and especially when it comes to the ladies' shoes. The next thing that's pretty important to your guests, and this is number 3, are the seating arrangements. So for instance, you are coming to a wedding, you had the option of doing a +1, but unfortunately you're not going to be able to bring your +1. You don't want to have that particular person that's attending your wedding on their own to sit at a table that's full of couples. It may be a little bit uncomfortable, and they would definitely feel like the third wheel. So make sure when you're starting your seating arrangements, make sure that you are allowing or taking into account the guests that you have coming, who you have sitting at what table. I know a lot of times people like to mix up the tables a little bit, where this is a little bit of the groom's guests and a little bit of the bride's guests at one table. I'm all in favor for that, just as long as the people that you're sitting at the table either have something in common, or it's somebody else at that table that they would be able to carry on a conversation with easily. Now we're at number 4. Number 4 is the music. And this can be anywhere from a live band to a DJ to whatever form of entertainment you would like. It is vitally important that during the process, the actual party part of your reception, that you have a DJ that can take the tone of the crowd, can also make sure to get people out their seats, to keep the party going, to not have any awkward silences, to be able to, teach a line dance or two if people don't know, because those are usually the things that allow people to get up and get a little bit comfortable on the dance floor. But making sure like their transitions are smooth, so that way when one song goes off, they're not playing a slow song and now everybody goes and sits back down. You want to have a DJ or a music ensemble that will actually keep your guests engaged on the dance floor. I want you to come real close because I have something to tell you. Hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the notification bell. I don't want you to miss anything. Not at all. I am your friend. I want you to have excellent events and live your life. Go ahead. Hit the subscribe button. Okay, carry on. Now let's move on to parking and transportation. That's one thing that during the RSVP process that you want to make your guests aware of is the transportation or the parking situation. If you have a situation where they'll have to pay for parking, it's definitely nice for you to give your guests heads up. So for instance, if they only accept credit card or if they only accept cash, that's something to easily mention at, during the RSVP process that, hey, the parking at the venue will be $20 and they only accept cash. If you have transportation for like your out of town guests where the hotel provides a shuttle, having the arrival times and the departure times, that's always nice. Because you may mention the arrival time so that they get to the ceremony and the reception on time, but also when the night's ending, if the shuttle's in a little bit earlier, then you want to make sure that your guests know when they need to be in place so that way they don't have a problem getting back to the hotel or the resort or anything like that at the end of the night. So making sure you give your guests a heads up about the transportation is always helpful. Believe me, it can alleviate a lot of headaches. Let's now talk about the bar. The bar is another thing that is relatively important to your guests. Now, there's a big debate that's going around between whether or not to have a cash bar or open bar or a combination of the two. I err on the side of whatever the couple decides would work best for their budget. In an instance, I have had couples that they do not consume alcohol. So they didn't find it important to have an open bar if majority of their guests were non-drinkers. Then you have on the other end where, people normally have parties and celebrations of that nature that include alcohol. So they may have a little more emphasis on making sure that they have an open bar. And then you have the couples sometimes where they want to have an open bar, but the budget is not really giving them the leeway they need to have an open bar for the entire night. So they may start with the open bar and then end with a cash bar at some point. Either way, no matter how you slice it, no matter how you look at it, the bar is important. And whether you do real cocktails or mocktails, and mocktails are basically like mixed drinks without the alcohol, no matter what you do, the bar or the beverage stations and things of that nature are important throughout the entire event. Again, when we were talking about having an event outside, do you have a refreshment station that has fruit infused water or, something that will allow your guests to feel refreshed? So the bar is really, really important. However you decide to break it up or however you decide to do it is okay. You have to do what's best for your budget, and that's definitely what you have to keep in mind. Because you also have some venues that don't allow alcohol at all. So then there you go, problem solved. If they don't allow it, there's nothing that you can really do about it. So you have that debate between, do I really love the venue or do I really need alcohol? And for a couple that doesn't really drink or or consume alcohol, the debate is up and down. But I say do whatever makes you happy, but just know it's important to your guests. Another thing that's pretty important for your guests is the food. I cannot stress enough about making sure that you taste the food and that you make a selection that's easy enough for all your guests to have, good choices. Because sometimes if you get a little too spot on with your personal choices, you kind of narrow the playing field for your guests to be able to actually enjoy their meal during the reception. And also making sure there's enough food. A lot of times when you have a buffet and you don't have somebody to kind of manage the portions of that buffet as people are putting them on their plates, a lot of times you can run into the people that are called later on to go through the buffet line actually wind up missing out, like things run out, or there's not enough of, you know, of the choices. There may have been 2 meat choices and enough for each person to get 1 piece. But if somebody in the front end got 2 pieces of one and 3 pieces of another, or, you know, did something a little bit different, or was making several plates or things of that nature, a lot of times your people that are called from table 12 or 13, whatever the case may be, they wind up getting the wrong end of the broom in that sense, because they wind up not being able to enjoy their food because the food has run out. And how to prevent that is to make sure that on your buffet, not only is the food good, but that is also managed by the company that's doing the catering, to make sure that the portions are evenly distributed to all the guests. Now, once all your guests go through and there's, you know, leftovers and things of that nature, let them have at it. I am all for it. Let them have as much as they want, because most of the times you don't feel like having to make sure all of that food is transported home. I want to hear from you. I want to know how you feel your guests will react to different things, and what do you think they find important. If you've been to a wedding or an event in the past, what did you feel was important, or what do you feel may have been overlooked by the actual couple or the person that threw the event? Thank you for stopping by today. We appreciate you taking your time to watch our video. Again, make sure that you subscribe down below and turn on the notification bell. And remember, there is always a reason to celebrate. See you all next time.